Hi, I'm going to take you through another open source tool that I've recently put out there. The last video was about Distro, a kind of proxy static hosting tool, which you can check out. That's another video, it's on YouTube. This one's about a tool called Casper, which is about building APIs in Express, which is a framework for Node, which is about building web applications. So Casper, the idea of Casper is to make it really easy to throw together an API that will let you serve data and create objects and just get something up and running really quickly, and then build things up. And it's all based around the really powerful idea of a cascade of callbacks in Express. So I'm going to create a really simple application. I'm going to create, let's say, a really basic blog API. It's nothing complicated, no authentication or anything like that, but just something that just serves some fake data down just to show you what's going on. So I'm gonna, let's say, call this Blogger, and I'll open up Blogger and then use the Express a global npm module, which is installable using npm install-g express, and that will install a whole load of stuff for you. That lets you set up Express apps using the command line. So I'm saying to Express, set yourself up in this current folder. It creates a ton of files, so you can see there's some files and folders being created there. And then it asks you to npm install. So that will install the dependencies that Express has and mean I can get started running a server. So I tend to keep working in two windows. So I'm going to have the server running over here, and I'll do any git or other npm stuff over here. So I'm going to use nodemon to keep this thing up. So I'm going to say nodemon app.js, and nodemon will keep Express running, and I'm using port 3000. Long term that's probably not so great, but just for now that'll work. And then I'm going to set distro up so I don't have to go to localhost 3000. So I'm going to say distro add blogger localhost 3000. Oops, I've just added that wrong. Distro rm and then distro add localhost 3000. So now we should be able to go to http blogger.com, and we should get not blogger.com, just straight blogger, http blogger, and we should get the bog standard stuff that comes with Express. So I'll open this up in Sublime, and I'll just work on this full screen. And first thing, open up app.js. So if you've seen Express before, then you'll kind of know this. I'm not going to go through what Express actually does, because I just want to show you exactly Casper and how it might be useful if you're already doing this stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove these roots, because I don't tend to use them, and then chuck in another one, which would be the API, and I'm going to require API, which would be in the current directory. So I'm going to create a folder called API. I'm going to delete the roots folder, and I'm also going to delete the views folder because we don't need it. And in fact, we don't need the public directory either. So now I'm going to create a new file off here. That's going to be in the API folder, and I'm going to call it index.js. This is going to export a function that's going to take the Express app as an argument, and then in here we're going to set up the API. So app.get, let's say here, I'm just going to create a function just to get things set up. So that takes the request and the response, and then I'm going to do res.jsonp and then pass it an object, status OK. Looks like my alignment's a little bit off there, just reset that. And then I need to set up the API, so I'm going to say API and pass it the app, and that will set up the roots. So I'll just comment that, set up API roots, and then everything should be set up right. The API should get set up by the app, which is created there. That call runs this function, which sets up the roots, which responds with an object. So in theory, node 1 should have restarted. It has. Hasn't crashed, and I should be able to go to Blogger, and we've got the status A-OK. I'm using a JSON plugin for Chrome that means I can see exactly how I'd get to this stuff, and this is really useful. Actually, you should check this this extension out. I think it's called JSON View, and kudos to Paul Adam Davis for pointing me to this one. So how could we use Casper to help build a simple, say, blog API more easily? Well, first I'm just going to install Casper, and I'm going to save into my package JSON that I want to use Casper. So npm install or I save Casper. So that'll grab Casper from the npm registry, and now we can require Casper in here. So Casper equals require Casper. Now Casper's available in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is swap out this first function here for a call to Casper, which is casper.noop, and I'm going to pass it that object again. So already this has saved us some work. A no-op is essentially just chuck some JSON down. This is optional, so if I actually just remove this for the time being and refresh over here, we get an empty object, and if I add that back, we'll get status A-OK. So that's the first thing. For building just routes that you just want to serve a bit of JSON, the Casper no-op is great. You can just chuck down some simple JSON. But let's create a different endpoint. Let's say we want to get all the posts in our system. Now I'm going to fake a database call here. I'm just going to use just a fake piece of data, but you would actually probably make a database call. So let's say we've made a database call and we have an array of posts that are all a set of objects. So let's say my title is going to be my first post, and the body of that can be, I don't know, something else. Hello world. And just chuck in my second post, goodbye world. And this endpoint is going to be /posts request response. Now what you could do, let's say you did a database call, you'd have a callback that would run, and you'd probably get an error and then the posts. So I'm just going to call a function here. Let's call it get posts, and I pass this callback here. So I'll create get posts, and it's going to pass me back those posts. So that's going to be a function that accepts a callback. Create the posts, and then run the callback, passing null for the error, and then the posts. So imagine get posts here is a database call, and it's not really just a kind of faking function. Now what you probably could do would be here, go if there's an error, then you'll want to return and say pass back to the callee, like there's an error, something went wrong, for example. And then you'll want to say if there's no posts, then return res.jsonp something else, and you'll have that'll be a 404. And then finally you want to say if there's some posts, then res.jsonp the posts back down. And if you wanted to transform this data, then you could do that. But basically there's a whole lot of error checking goes in here that's standard for every single time that you get anything from the database. There's a distro method that can completely replace this. Sorry, not distro, Casper. That's the other tool. So there's a Casper method that can help you with this, and that's casper.db. And you have to pass it the request and the response, so it can. It may look at the request, but mostly it just uses the response variable to send stuff back. So this has immediately been shortened to get posts, and then Casper just figures out the rest and sends down the data it gets. So currently the app's not crashing, and if I go to /posts, then you can see I get the post straight away. If instead of passing the posts, I return callback and I pass, say, a new error with database is down. So let's say we get that error, and I'm not passing any posts. So let's see how Casper handles this. You can see it's sending back an error with the message database is down. And if we look at the network panel, what we actually got here, we got a 500 error, which is essentially what it would have been. So instead of passing an error, I'm now going to pass, let's say I pass now no data. So there's no error, but there's no data. Casper is going to give us an empty object, but it's also going to give a 404. So Casper knows that there's no data has been passed back. It's a 404 not found, and that just goes straight back to the API. If I restore posts here, then I can actually let Casper just handle the error checking and do the work to transform the posts myself. So now in here I have access to the posts, and I also have access to the response. So I'm going to say wrap up these posts in a envelope. So data would be the posts, and meta, let's give it some information. So count, let's say, would be posts.length, and timestamp is let's say new date. So now I'm transforming this response a bit and sending it back down, but by this point I don't need to do any error checking because I know that Casper's handled it. I could do error checking, but by this point Casper will have handled the error if it's a 500 or a 404 where there's no data. So generally you can just handle posts there. And now if we access posts, you can see we've got our posts wrapped up in this envelope that I did. We can see there's 2 posts and there's a timestamp associated with when this was served, and that kind of updates every time I refresh it. So that's casper.db, which is a useful method if you're interacting with a database. Another one that would be useful is for say saving a post. So I'm going to create a new endpoint, which would be app.post. I'm just going to put my phone away because it's buzzing. App.post, let's say /post. So this is an endpoint for creating a new post, and there'll be request and response. And I'm going to do something that you should never do, and just push the request.body onto the posts. So just save these posts up here, and then do posts.push request.body, which is a terrible idea. Never do it, but I'm going to do it for now. And then res.jsonp, the body. So the person just gets back essentially exactly what they sent, and whatever they sent gets pushed onto posts. So I'm going to use an HTTP mocking tool for this. I'm going to jump over here and go to the advanced REST client, and then post to blogger/post. I'm just going to check that this hasn't errored. No, it hasn't. We're fine. So it's a post, and I'm going to do a form. So the title is going to be my third post, and we'll add. Oh, sorry, I'm using the headers there. I don't want to be doing that. In the body, I'm going to say title will be my third post, and the body can be hi. Keep it simple. Just going to check I did call it title and body. Yep, title and body works. So now we should be able to send this up to the API, and assuming nothing goes wrong, we get what we sent back, which is nice. And that seems to have been added. And now if I go back to posts, then we've got those 3 posts. That's fine. That's the most simple kind of save thing. But inside here, we want to make sure that we're actually getting the information we want. So in order to create a post, let's say we those 2 fields, the title and the body, are absolutely required. We could do some kind of checking in here and saying if request.body.title, or if not, request.body.title, and request.body blah 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 blah. So there's all this error checking that could go on. And then and that's stuff that you have to do every time you create an endpoint that you can post to. And I realise now I've used the word post and post, which is a little confusing, but I think hopefully it's clear. Instead, what would be better would be if we could just say, I just want to check, make sure this key is in the body, and I don't have to care about throwing an error about that. That something else should handle that. I just want to deal with data that I know is correct. So the first thing Casper does to help you out is give you a checking function. So this is casper.check.body. I'm pretty sure it's that. It could be body check, but I think it's check body. And I'm going to say I want to make sure there's a title there, and I want to make sure that there's a body there. So let's just check this is okay, and I'll post to it again. My fourth post, send, and that's fine. That's gone through fine because we've got the title and the body. If I remove the body and just send a post with a title, then we will really ideally we want an error. And you can see here that Casper has set this up so it sends an error saying missing body from body. Now body, again, I've duplicated the words up completely accidentally, but that's pretty useful. So immediately we're getting some errors, and if I then again delete the title, send, you can see we're missing title from body. So that straight away is some error checking, but that's kind of saying we specifically want these ones, but other things are still getting through. So if I add a new value in here and call it title and just give it a random value, body, give it another random value, and a third thing like something crazy, let's say I'm trying to hack the website, then and I send that, we have both the pieces of information, but the extra field that I sent through did actually get through. And if I head to the posts endpoint, then you can see that it's actually been saved. And really, you don't want this. It's that whole thing of liberal in what you accept, but then actually being strict in kind of in what you distribute. So Casper has another tool that allows you to essentially whitelist fields on a particular body. So it's casper.allow body, and I'm going to give it an array of fields that I want to allow. So I only want to allow within the body a title and that body field. So now if I try and post this again, just with some different fields, then you can see that it's removed the extra fields that weren't supposed to be allowed and just let the whole thing go through. So now we have the server's restarted, so that one's disappeared. But we can see that one I just posted with this script hello and hack lols hasn't gone through, and we've got a clean version of the post. And I really like this way of doing things. It's a really clean syntax where we've just got a kind of chain of callbacks, each of which handles one very specific thing and that knows what kind of error it's supposed to return and does it if there is that error. Again, there's equivalent checking methods for parameters. So if I wanted to say update a particular post and I wanted an ID, I could say I want to check that in the parameters there is that ID, and if there's an ID missing, then and then you can also pass a checking function. So if you needed that to be 10 characters long, then you can get Casper to throw an error when something's missing. There are a couple of other methods that Casper has that are useful. So for example, I can say casper.log the body, and that will log that the key that you pass in here from the request. So in this case, I'm just going to post again. Looks like we might have a crashing app here. I messed up the URLs. Try that again. Send. So that's gone through, and you can see that Casper has logged the body that came in. And actually, you can double this up multiple times. So I can say, let's look before all this checking happened and after all this checking happened. And I'll post again, get the same thing, and you can see that the body has been logged twice. First time we've got all that information, and second time hacklols has been removed. As ever, on GitHub there's more documentation if you want it. There's a few other methods that I haven't talked about. and you can just check that out. It's github.com/foo/casper, and there's some other documentation here. So you can remove specific keys, and there's some other things in here that again I haven't documented yet, but may well do, like a creation method and things like that are useful for me right now, but I'm not quite ready to let the world know because I'm not 100% sure that they're exactly right. But anyway, I hope that's helpful for you if you're putting together APIs using Express, and I know I've certainly found it really useful for getting APIs built really fast and making sure that I'm building a system that's kind of able to handle errors and cleans data up and generally is easy for me to work with, and also adds a kind of guarantee of that certain errors are going to get picked up, because I can just chuck that function in there and I don't have to worry about whether it's I've done it multiple times, and it also reduces code duplication. So yeah, I hope that was useful for you. You get something from it, and again, let me know if you find any bugs, if you've got any improvements on GitHub. Thanks for watching.